You may have been tired trying to figure out how to use it or even choosing on what style fits you the most. Well, this is the only best secret ultra style guide you need, and I will show you how to master it in the fastest way possible. I promise you that you will learn the key foundation and secret techs so that you can become pro in no time. So sit back and relax, it's time for you to become pro. Number 1. Sanju. This is the stats of Sano. Its main power are spiking and tilting. But how does tilting work, Chrisu? When you have maxing tilting ability, you can have more option on aiming rather than regular spiker. As you can see, there's a massive turn whenever you tilt left or right. Plus, tilting ability makes the spiking of Sano much more easier since you are flexible than anyone else. Let's compare Sano to different spiker styles. But here's a question. Is there any differences based on your setter? Well, the answer for that is yes. The main differences are the timing and the curving of the ball. But here's a trick. As you can see, you don't have to rush your spiking with Sano. You will always hit it no matter what. Your main goal is to settle a score rather than rushing the score. Let's have some comparison between Timeskip Kageyama and Taichou. For me, Kageyama is slightly better than Taichou, since it is a bit faster plus the ball stops mid-air. So, this is really crucial for any spiker, especially for Sano. You have to think carefully before you spike. The goal of spiking is to settle a score, not how fast you spike the ball. The more the control you have, the better it is for you to get a score. But speaking of objective, it will always depend on what lineup you have. Now we know how to maximize Sano. Let's talk about countering it. Countering Sano is really tricky, especially when the setter and spiker are really good. To counter Sano, you need to have a flexible receiver and blocker like Atasumi, Taichou, Timeskip Hinata, Timeskip Kageyama, Kimiro, or Hirakumi. These styles are the crucial counter against Sano in the lineup. Number 2. Timeskip Hinata. So here, this is the stats of Timeskip Hinata. As you can see here, he has a weird looking stats on his spike. This thing connects to his secret ability, which is the power meter. The secret ability can be done through spiking and serving. Let's get first to the practice mode because this is the best way to practice your Hinata. So now we are in the practice mode, so as you can see here above your ability, you can see the power meter. So if I move here, the power meter works, but when you stop, it also stops. And one more thing guys, each time you move to a different way, it resets. But as long as you keep moving to one direction, it will keep rising until you max it. So let's try out what it looks like having a max power spike. Whoa! It looks so scary, what the hell? But this will even more scarier if Taichou sets this. Alright, so some of you guys have heard that gliding is bad in my tips and tricks video. This is not the case if you are Timeskip Hinata because you need to keep gliding in this style. So gliding is really required for this style. And I have preferred a method for you to practice your glide spiking. First, you have to spawn the ball in the center like this or whatsoever you like. Once you have spawned that, immediately move and go to the angle that you want to spike. Your main goal in this practice is to get the power spike when you glide. Make sure you hit it, of course. It may be really hard at first, but if you manage to get 5 times in a row of power spiking, I am pretty sure you are already good enough for this style. Now you know how to power spike properly, let's talk about what are the deadly techs for Timeskip Hinata. The first deadly tech is emote tech. I learned this deadly tech from one of the best Timeskip Hinata pro player in Volleyball Legends. So how do you do this deadly tech? So first, make sure you have at least broom or skateboard. Then, turn off your shift lock so you can flick aim. The reason why I need you to turn off your shift lock is because flick aim is so important because this makes you unpredictable when you spike as a Hinata. So this is the example of emote tech. Now for the second deadliest tech of Timeskip Hinata. The second deadliest tech of Timeskip Hinata is the Taichou Hinata tech. You know, Taichou sets makes your spike even more powerful, but this even becomes more deadlier if you get a Taichou set as a Timeskip Hinata. This tech is really good if you do this in the back row because you have more choice or control to aim whenever you want, and it is really hard to read the spike if you are in the back row. This is the example of Taichou Hinata set. Ooh, this looks so scary to deal with. Number 3, Timeskip Kageyama. So, these are the stats of Timeskip Kageyama. This style has the most balanced stats I have ever seen among all of the styles. This style doesn't have any low stats at all. The most interesting part of this style is that he has the max serving power and rainbow set. But how does his secret ability works, Chrisu? Alright, as always, I want you to hop on the practice mode alongside with me. You know, Timeskip Kageyama is way different than the other styles like Timeskip Oikawa, Taichou, or Twins. His setting power is really good, so his default set should look like this. Do you see that? That is the setting mechanics of Timeskip Kageyama. What I noticed that most new players of this Timeskip Kageyama use this without any advanced mode. So, it has mentioned here on the secret ability that you can adjust the distance of your setting through the setting power. So, you gotta set what is the best for your spiker. You don't wanna set on the spot where there is a receiver on that side. So, with this setting power, you have so many options where you wanna set the directly for your spiker. So here's the first common but powerful tech that you always have to use, which is enable advanced mode. Enabling your advanced mode will enable your aim on how far can your set will stop. The higher the power is, the further it is. The lower the power, the shorter it is. It is super important, especially if you want to play with your tempo in your spiker. Although, adjusting your power to other setter styles than Kageyama isn't that good. So, let's see some comparison between the setters like Taichou, Oikawa, and Kageyama. As you can see here, Kageyama stood the most among all of the setters because this is the only setters that stop speed air than the others, although it doesn't give any power buff like Taichou, but is super good enough if you pair it with any spiker styles. So now, let's jump on to the best abilities you can use for Timeskip Kageyama. There are two best abilities you can use. Let's go first with the secret one, the Magnetic Pull. Magnetic Pull is really good for Timeskip Kageyama because you can make yourself more unpredictable against your enemies. You either bait your enemy to receive early, then spike, or drag it and bounce it back to your spiker like this. So, you should definitely get Magnetic Pull if you're looking for best ability for Timeskip Kageyama. Although, there is one more ability that is something you wouldn't expect. Still Block. How does the Still Block works with Timeskip Kageyama? Let me tell you why. Still Block does not only make you become blocker for a time being, but it also counters completely the shield breaker. If your enemy does have this and you try to set, receive, or block, you can cook them with Still Block. And there's one tech that I will be sharing to you secretly. Listen. So you know that Still Block is used to block, right? You can use this as your surprise attack against your enemy if they are not close to net. Since Still Block isn't that hard to fill up than Magnetic Pull, you can easily get your team a score rather than just setting it to your spiker. Number 4, the Twins. Miya Twins is very unique among all the styles. This style has two styles within the secret style. This is the stats of Osuma, which is a spiker and blocker. And this is for the Atasumi, which is the serving ace and back row setter. You can already see here that this style is a no joke. But when do you actually switch with Miya Twins? Well, we need to understand how they work. Let us start first with Atasumi. Atasumi will always be your starting point whenever the round starts. Why? Because Atasumi have a max serving power with a floating skills, he is fast and you can serve deadly with this. Let's have some comparison between Atasumi, Kimiro, and Timeskip within their serving. As you can see here, both Atasumi and Oikawa has a deadly serve. But I believe Atasumi has more advantage than Timeskip Oikawa because you can confuse your enemy with your serving. Atasumi floating serve can be only triggered whenever you back tilt, so it doesn't matter whether you S plus A or S plus T. With these mechanics, you have choice whether you float or normal. Also, it doesn't matter if the ball goes forward or straight, as long as you tilt, it will get triggered. Listen, I have a trick for serving with Miya Twins. If you see your enemy is way too forward, you can punish them by serving normally. But if they are way too backward, this is the time where you activate your deadly floating serve. With just serving, you are already winning the game. Also, do not rush your serving with Atasumi since the ball is way too slow than your speed. Just think about when you serve, you wait a bit, then you serve it. Now let's talk about Osuma, which will be your secondary style in the match. You will only activate this whenever you spike a ball or block the ball. The spiking of Osuma is really strong, especially if you can aim or flick. Blocking with Osuma is really good for 2v2 because if your enemy spike in front of you, you can just punish them with blocking because no one will ever back it up since they have limited player to catch it. Although the spiking is not as good as Sano, but it is decent enough to settle a score. Here's another trick when it comes to switching. You can fake your set with this style, only do this whenever your enemy is marking your spiker, or maybe if the enemy got used that you are only setting, then you can show that you can become a spiker as well. Now we know how to maximize your switching. Now let's talk about how to counter Miya Twins. Countering Osuma is really simple than Sanu, but countering Atasumi is really tricky. Osuma spiking is really straightforward, so the only thing you need to do is to watch where he does look when he jumps. It's really simple, right? Well, the only problem you will mind is how he will back tilt or front tilt. Now let's talk about Atasumi. Atasumi's serve is the one of the most trickiest serving that you need to practice. This one takes a lot of practice, but I will give you a trick for this one. As you can see, you must always position yourself and your teammate in the middle, but not so middle, so that whenever he serve a float, you are ready to receive it, and whenever he serve normally, you can just go back and receive it easily. Remember, dealing with Atasumi floating serve takes some time before you get used to it. Number 5. Kizuki. So this is the stats of Kimiro. As you can see here, this is the only style that has the most maximum stats, except for the blocking and spiking. And with this special, Super Dive, this special is the game changer of Kimiro style. Most player in this game uses this Super Dive in the wrong way, so in the end, they just throw this style up with another style. And I want to show you that this style is one of the best style in Volleyball Legends. So I'm gonna teach you how to do this Super Dive properly. Super Dive can be triggered whenever you hold control in your keyboard, and you can aim this by pressing AWSD. And I recommend you to always use your ship lock for this style because the Super Dive is really tricky when you don't have ship lock. But Chrisu, I always fail to receive the ball whenever I use the Super Dive. Well, there's a simple method for that. It's called position diving. You don't have to actually hold your control since it is ineffective to receive the spikes with that dive. What I want you to do is to position yourself and just click your control towards the ball when receiving. Since you have the max speed and dive, you are actually the deadliest libero in the game. Here's the example of me using this method. Now you know how to super dive properly. Let's proceed to the deadliest tech of Kimiro style. Did you know that there's a deadliest tech of Kimiro? This tech is actually being used by one of the best Kimiro player in the world, and I'm gonna explain to you how to do it. Let's call this deadly tech as the surprise attack. This tech is not a boom boom jump or whatever magnetic it is, but this surprise attack is actually abusing your position as a Kimiro. As you can see here, by using your hold dash, when the enemy is locking you in this position, you can simply dash to the opposite side of your enemy and they cannot catch you up, and you dunk your spike instantly with this. To do this tech, you actually need a friend that can bait and set for you. Your bait will be your main spiker that will distract your enemy to the other side, while the setter will set oppositely to the main spiker of your time, and you will be the one doing it with the surprise attack to the enemy. It's actually so good, especially when you and your teammate can master this tech. This tech is really good against 3v3s and 4v4s, although it's still work for 2v2, but it's gonna be tricky against the enemy. Number 6. Timeskip Okazu. So first, there are 4 stages to become pro as Timeskip Oikawa. We're gonna start on topmost all the way down to the bottom. So for our first stage is the key. The key of Timeskip Oikawa is to look at his stats. As you can see here, the max stats for this style is jump, serve, and set, meaning this type of style is a setter and service ace. What makes this style special is because of his rainbow stats. His stats on the serve is connected to the secret special, where if you hit this extra skill, you can knock off your enemy with this serve. Now for this stage 2, learning the basics of Timeskip Okazu. The best way to learn basics is to go to the practice mode first. Remember, if you have friend, it is much more better so you can practice your lineup together. So first, let's start off with the serving. Just press 1 so you can start off your serving practice. I want you to practice first hitting the rainbow scale. Don't mind if you don't hit your serve, it doesn't matter. Then once you're good at it, you can start with the most basic serving technique, which is no glide. I recommend you to use your ship lock on this for your aiming. Don't rush the ball too much so you don't hit too low on your serving. Once you're comfortable with it, you can start aiming with your serve. After that, you have finally learned how to serve properly with this style. Setting with this is quite tricky than Taichou or Timeskip Kageyama, but don't worry, I got you covered for this. So you know, this style is a bit slower than those two, so you have to get used to his setting first. The direction of your setting will always rely on your aim, so basically it determines on how you look on it. My trick here is to rely on your cursor point to aim it properly. I don't recommend you to glide when setting because it's too hard to do it and you're likely to miss aiming. So all you have to do most of the time is to position yourself first, then jump set. And lastly, for the spike, most of you basically already know it how to do it, especially you monkeys. But remember, as a Timeskip Oikawa, you will only spike when you are close to net, because you are not a spiker but a setter and service ace. So your job is to set most of the time, but there are times that you have to make yourself unpredictable, so the way to surprise them is to dunk it down with spike. So if you're following well along with your basics, leave a like. Now let's proceed to the stage 3, how to maximize. Since we are on the 3rd stage of becoming pro with Timeskip Oikawa or Okazu, how do you maximize your serving and setting? First, when you serve, you must serve as fast as you can hit it and be unpredictable by doing hits. By flicking your aim, you give no signs to your enemy on where you serve it. Most players predict the direction by where they look, but if you flick it like this, you can surprise them. Plus, always position yourself to the center so it's harder for them to predict on where you serve it. As always, do this on practice mode so you can maximize your serving skills. How about for setting Chrisu? It's also similar, just don't look directly and flick it. Remember that your setting direction is determined on where your camera look at, but not your avatar. This is important for tributers because it gives you option to set to the best spiker. One more thing, you are guaranteed to win as Timeskip Okazu or Oikawa if you serve on the high ping players, because it's nearly impossible for them to receive it. Now let's proceed to the most exciting stage at all, stage 4, the deadliest tech. There are 3 deadly techs that you didn't know about Timeskip Oikawa. Let's start with the easiest and yet effective deadly tech, which is the magnetic dunk tech. Magnetic Magic Dunk Tech is the simplest deadly tech that you can do, and it works most of the time against player. The only thing you have to do is to drag the ball and glide towards the net and dunk it. You can play around with this tech like gliding sideways, delay it, or immediately spike it when it's free. It's super easy to do, unlike those other two deadly techs. And now for the second deadliest tech, which is the redirectional jump. This tech allows you to bait your enemy when you're serving or even with your dump spike. Although redirectional is not as easy as magnetic since you need a lot of practice before you do this in rank. And for our last but most deadliest tech of all time, the rainbow curve tech. This tech is mixing your rainbow serve with a curve spike ability, and I'm telling you right now, this is nearly impossible to receive, so this deadliest tech guarantees you a score when you do this properly. Number 7, Taichou. So this is the stats for the Taichou, but the main difference, Taichou has the ability to give a powerful spike to anyone. Taichou utilizes their spiker's power by giving them a spike pop when they set the ball towards their spiker. But Chris, what will happen to a Taichou set when it got touched by a non-Taichou player? The answer for that is, the bop will disappear. So I recommend you to spike the Taichou set whenever it got set. One more thing, let's have a comparison between a weak spiker to a strong spiker with a Taichou bop. Oh my freaking god. This is really nuts. Whenever Taichou sets, especially if you have Timeskip Hinata as your spiker, it is not humanly possible to react to that instantaneous spike of Timeskip Hinata. It is the most fastest spike I have ever seen. Number 8, Kasuna. So this is the stats of Kasuna. As you can see here, Kasuna has a max jump, spike, and bump. It also have a massive speed and diving power than Sanju. Now let's talk about the jump boost. How does the jump boost work in this style? Kasuna's jump boost works with the switching method, meaning you have a choice whether you want to charge or not. You can switch your charging by pressing R. So let's measure how far can he jump. This is the example of normal jump of Kasuna, and this is the example of charge jump of Kasuna. As you can see here, there's a massive difference in their jump, but it is already good enough to counter the receives of your enemy. Now let's talk about what are the Kasuna's tech. Kasuna has a lot of potential to do because of his jumping boost and speed. You can maintain your jumping boost whenever you have with super sprint. When you activate this, your jumping boost remains until you jump. With this method, you can bait your enemy towards the other side since you can run faster and have max jumping power than anyone else. Listen, there's also a tech that I will show you, but this only works for tributary above with Timeskip Kageyama. You can land your spike to the corner with the high set when you charge your jump here. Now we know how to maximize and do the Kasuna stack. Let's proceed to the lineup of Kasuna. The best lineup of Kasuna in 2v2 are Timeskip Kageyama as your setter and Kasuna as a spiker. For tributary, Timeskip Kageyama, Sanju, and Kasuna. Number 9, Mikage. This is the stats of Mikage. Mikage's style has the strongest blocking power next to Hirakumi. He also have a decent spiking power and a decent amount of power per serving, bump, and set. Although his speed is slightly slower, but it is reasonable enough to not make him overpowered. His secret ability is something that overpowers his blocking. Think about of having a steel block, but it is unlimited. But how does the Mikage stacking works? Well, the answer for that is very simple. His secret ability stacks up whenever you receive like setting, bump, or dive. So whenever you have a max stack of this ability, your secret blocking power will be activated. This is how it looks like without the super block. And this is how it looks like with the super block. But did you know that Mikage can also be a deadly spiker like Sanu? Mikage can also be a spiker than a blocker. He is like Miya in a nutshell, but slightly better. Now you have figured out how to block and spike with Mikage, let us proceed to the deadly techniques of Mikage. Mikage has tons of deadly techniques that you can do, and I will share to you how to do it. The first deadly technique of Mikage is side blocking. We know that most of the blockers just tilt down whenever they block. But did you know that when you do a side blocking or aim it to the way that anyone couldn't reach, this becomes deadly since the ball drops so fast than anyone. Let me show you how to do it. So you can practice this side blocking in the practice mode with your friend. Whenever you jump, position directly where he looks. Then, aim sideways to block against the spiker while tilting down. With this, it is nearly impossible for anyone to react with this method. I know this tech is too much already, but can we get a 400,000 subscribers by hitting that subscribe button? And for the second deadliest technique of Mikage is mixing it with the steel block. But why do we still use the steel block ability if we are already the best blocker? The reason for you to use the steel block is that it completely counters the shield breaker. If you can counter shield breaker while having the best blocking ability, you will become unstoppable against pro player. Number 10. Jingo. So here's the stats of Jingo style. This is the only style that has the 3 rainbow stats on the spiking, serving, and curbing. And we can already see here that Jingo is much better than Sanju itself. His secret ability makes him so much better because you can apply this for both spiking and serving. Here's the comparison between Jingo and Sanju stats. Let me demonstrate to you why Jingo is definitely the best style in Volleyball Legends right now. But first, let's hop on the practice mode. So here, let's see how does the spiking with all tilts. Alright, so we can see here on the Sanju tilting is very linear than the Jingo. Jingo spike curves a lot in any direction you want. So as you can see here, Jingo will become much more unpredictable in the front row. So that means you should always place on the front row when you're playing as a Jingo. And let me tell you right now, this is so deadly. Like bro, if you have mastered this, you can win so easily with Jingo style. Like 100% easier. And here's the trick. How do you spike effectively as a Jingo? Whenever you spike, always S tilt. Don't worry about the ball being out because Jingo always curves and it doesn't go outside. So always trust the S tilt of Jingo. His mechanic is really weird among all of the spiker I made for a guide. Now let's talk about the serving. How does the curbing works on serving, Chrisu? Remember, serving with Jingo isn't that hard than Miya Twins. You can activate your curbing whenever you want than the floating. Plus, you have the perfect speed and jump so you won't miss your serving in any timing unlike the Twins. Now, let's have some comparison between Miya Twins float serve and Jingo curve serve. You can literally play a mind game with Jingo. You can serve straight or curve whatever you want. And I don't know man, I'm really amazed how this style gonna break the game just like Mikage's style. Now for now, I want you to go to the practice mode again because this will be your perfect spot to practice this. So you can see here, spiking with Jingo can be normal or curbing. You can control it whenever you want, like you tilt to the other side where there is no enemy around it. Or just do a high spiking then get it to the back row. Though what I want to say to you, you can do better on curbing. There's one tech that you can do which is the low power spike. To do this, you must enable your advanced mode. You can enable the advanced mode on the team selection. Then, I want you to hold your setting keybind like this. This is where you will see your power scaling. I want you to do the lowest power or it can be green whenever you want. Then, spike like this. And now, let me teach you the techs of Jingo serving. Serving with Jingo is really simple and easier than Miya Twins like I said. But did you know you can control your curbing depending on your power? It is still the same as a low power spike, but you have to click then holding. Like I said, the higher the power, the longer it is. The lower the power, the closer it is to the net. You can mix this with A or D depending which side is the weakness of your enemy. Now, let's talk about what are the best abilities with Jingo. The best ability with Jingo is either redirectional jump or magnetic pull. These abilities will make your spiking more unpredictable if you know how to use these abilities. If you're a beginner, I recommend you to use magnetic pull since it is much easier than redirectional jump. But if you're really good like a pro, you should definitely use redirectional jump. Redirection jump can be used both spiking and serving than magnetic pull, which makes it as the best ability you can use for all kinds of spiking. Number 11. Yogan. Alright, first, let's analyze what are the stats of Yogan style. As you can see here, this is the only style who have a max style to everything, and it has a 3 rainbow stats: jump, spike, and diving. So he's like the combination between Kizuki, Timeskip Hinata, and Kasuna. And all of these max stats can be activated through his secret ability called Raging. When he rages, he gets max and rainbow stats. But when he's not, he's still a pretty good receiver. Hear me out. The first step for you to become pro as Yogan is to go to the practice mode. Alright. So here are the key things you need to know about Yogan. His secret ability gets charges whenever you receive or score. But which among these are the fastest way to charge your rage? The fastest way to charge your rage is through diving. Usually, it takes 6 sets or bump to max out your charging. But with diving, it only takes 4. Once you get this rage, all of your stats becomes max and you will get this craziest power ever. What the hell? This spike is so crazy, bro. And you wanna know much more crazier? He dive crazy too, like Kizuki. Bro, we just got a best setter and now we get a best attacker here. Alright, here's another interesting part. The things that drain your rage are only spiking and blocking. So you don't have to worry that much when you're receiving, setting, or even serving. You can go crazy whenever you want as long as you don't drain it. Bro, this Yogan buff makes me so happy, but what makes me more happier is when you hit that like and subscribe button. Now let's talk about the simple rules as Yogan. There are 3 rules that you need to know as a Yogan. Rule number 1, no rage rule. As a Yogan, your main role when you don't have rage is to keep receiving and defending. You will only attack whenever you have rage mode. Rule number 2, avoid S-tilt when rage mode. So you have seen how crazy is the rainbow stats on spike. Your S-tilt will likely get to out of bounds unless if you are in the back row and the ball is really low enough to spike. Rule number 3, always dive. As a Yogan, you have a really decent stats for diving and it's really crucial for you to charge up your rage. Even though you have the rage, diving can help you catch the ball effectively because it covers half of the field. So I have a secret tip for you, especially for the high elo players. So a lot of you are struggling to counter Kasuna, especially in high elo. Since Yogan has this rainbow jump, you can completely counter Kasuna by timing your fishnetting in front of him. It can hardly bypass your block because you have this rainbow jump just like Kasuna. So whenever there's a Kasuna player in your enemy, you can counter it with Yogan. Alright, so now let's talk about the deadliest tech. There are 2 deadliest tech that you need to know. The first one is the high ball tech. This tech is similar to Kasuna charge tech. To do this tech, you must position yourself to the side most and make sure your setter set really high for you. Because this high ball allows you to have 3 options on your angle. Whether you dunk it, spike it in the middle, or the outmost part of the corner. This makes you unstoppable just like Kasuna player. And for our second deadliest tech is the corner serving tech. This one is a classic tech but also works really well for Yogan. All you have to do is position yourself to the corner side, then spike it to the cornermost or cut side. But here's the trick when serving. You will only do W tilt when you do the corner. But when you do a cutting serve, you don't have to do the W tilt but with no tilt only. With this, you will avoid triggering the true low when serving. I had done this many times in the ranked game and it works most of the time. Alright, so now you know the deadliest tech, let's talk about the best abilities for Yogan. There are 2 best abilities that you should use as a Yogan and the first one is redirectional jump. This one is my goat among all of the abilities because there's tons of things you can do with this ability. You can trick your enemy when spiking, serving, or even do a 360 spike on them. This is like aura maxing when you use this ability. And the next one is the curve spiking. This one you can utilize this when you are serving. With your corner serving tech, you can maximize it by doing the curve spiking. All you have to do is to just glide, S-tilt, then suddenly activate it before you spike. In simple words, Yogan is no longer a rage baiter but a craziest style ever made in Volleyball Legends. Number 12, Hidari. Alright, so we should know first what are the stats we need to maximize when playing Hidari. Hidari has a Timeskip Hinata power spike and a Timeskip Oikawa power serve with his left hand. So you need to focus on serving and spiking with your left hand to maximize Hidari. However, there is no perfect secret style that gives a max spiking power and a max serving at the same time. So if you ever miss your left hand, you are so crook. So how do you avoid getting cooked? Well, it's actually super simple, and I really love this method, which is do practice mode. Practice makes you better, so we have to hop on in this practice mode first. Then I will tell you my secret way to master this. It's so much better if you have a friend here, so let me call him up. Alright, so let's start with the easiest, which is serving. The easiest way for you to serve is to not glide at all. You can just simply do like this and move to the right side a bit to hit with your left hand. In simple words, just do the TRS method, throw, right, spike. And you are already maximizing your serving. Same goes for the glide serve. Just add J to your TRS, which is TRJS, which means throw, right, jump, serve, like this. It's super simple, right? But I want to aim to the other side. It's actually simple, just move around before you initiate your serving, then you do it. However, if you want to aim it with your left hand, then that's where it gets complicated because you need a lot of time of practicing it to get used to it. So practicing is a really good secret method that I always do. Now let's talk about the spiking. It is almost same as serving. However, your only downside on this is that your aiming is quite limited. Since your aiming is so limited, I only recommend you to only spike with your left hand on the back row with S2, and it will always land no matter what. However, in the front row, your aim is super limited and it's easy to predict. But I have a solution for that. You just have to dunk it in any part of your arm and don't mind whenever it hits with your right, or you're just lucky if you aim it with your left. Dunking means W tilted, so make sure to not delay too much or else the net will be against you. And of course, you have to aim away from your enemy or do a demon cat, whatever you want. Don't mind if your left hand doesn't hit it, just keep spiking it. You have the power there, don't worry. And remember, if you have a TSK setter, you can do the massive delay, but not too much, alright? And how about with Taichou? Taichou is actually the perfect setter for the back row with Hidari. In simple words, let's say that Timeskip Kageyama is super good on front row and Taichou is really good in back row with Hidari. So for me, I would really prefer Taichou sets over Kageyama set. And now, let's talk about what are the deadliest technique for serving and spike. And let me show you something first. The deadliest serving tech, curve spiking tech. If you mix curve spike ability with your left hand on Hidari, holy moly, this is actually nuts. The best serving technique you can ever do, just like Timeskip Oikawa. You just needed to hit it with your left hand with the TRS method. And you're gonna get a free point with this serve. Make sure to S tilt, by the way. But here's the two deadly tags that you can do with Hidari. The first deadly tag is the simplest and easiest to do among all of the deadly tags, the boom jump tag. You see, the direction of spiking with Hidari is quite weird, like it doesn't go straight but it curves down to its direction. And if you mix this with the boom jump, boom! Receiving your spike is nearly impossible in the front row unless if your enemy is in the exact position on where the ball lands. This boom jump is super good and it doesn't need too much charge, and you can use it more frequently than the secret abilities like magnetic pull. It's super easy to use and it's deadly. And the next deadly tag for spiking is the redirectional jump. This one is opposite for boom jump, but it is super good in any situation. Using this tag needs a lot of practice. Your goal is to surprise your enemy when you do this, and you can bait your aim by aiming on the other side with the redirection. The reason why this is also good overall because you can apply this for both spiking and serving. And for our latest ultra style, number 1, Hakka. Alright, so we have 3 fundamentals to become pro with Hakka. And the first one here is the Hakka basics, so we're gonna jump up first here. In this Hakka basics, we need to learn first how does Hakka works by looking to his main stats. So you see here, he has the rainbow stats on his setting, meaning he's a setter main. And his special ability is all about the clone. But what makes him as an ultra style? When you look up on this mastery, you can actually become a spiker and blocker through his clone. And you can summon up to 2 clones if you max your mastery. So that means Hakka style can become all-rounder once you reach the max level. And I can already imagine how crazy this style is. Alright, so now let's try to understand how the clone works. So in this style, you have to fill up first his clone ability by receiving, spiking, or scoring. So it takes like 4 to 6 to fill this up, and once it is maxed up, you can toggle it on and off. And how can you trigger the clone? To trigger this clone, you have to set up like this. Whoa, that's really quick. So with this clone, you have to be fast whenever you're gonna set it or spike it. That's why, by doing this on the practice mode, you can get used with the timing of the clone. So if you take a closer look, the clone aim only copies on how your avatar looks. And one last thing, your clone will never count the touches of the ball. So that means, if you're the last touch, you can go crazy whenever you want. Just remember, it only counts as one touch whenever you clone it or not. Now, let's talk about what are the things you cannot do with the clone. First of all, you cannot use any ability with your clone. Even if it is redirectional jump, it will not work. The only time you can only use your ability is when the clone disappears. Second, the clone doesn't change its direction if you click your aim. The clone direction is very linear, so it's more predictable if you know how it works. And lastly, the clone will never trigger if it goes to the other side. Alright, so we have seen here that Hakka can become a spiker when you reach the level 5 clone. So if you have learned a lot with this guide, why not consider subscribing? Now we have cleared the Hakka's basic, it's time for you to learn the Hakka's tech. There are 2 deadly techs that you must know with Hakka, and this tech can make you score easily. The first deadly Hakka tech is the Demon Clone tech. First of all, you have to position your aim onto 20 to 30 degrees from the net like this. After that, do a jump set and aim it to the side of the net like this. Ooh, that looks really deadly. It doesn't matter whether you are close to net or in the middle, as long as you set it close to the side of the net, then you can do the demon cut with proper avatar aim. If you are level 5 Hakka, then that means you can either bait it then spike it or set it to your spiker. It all depends on what position they are. And for our second tech is the double clone serve tech. This is similar to the demon clone tech, but this time you have to serve it with your 2 clone to the side of the net. So to do this, just make the ball glide first, then move to the side of your serve, then glide towards your ball. After that, hold D and spam set. Once you have reached your second clone, spike it immediately, either you dunk it or S tilted. I know this technique is quite advanced for you, so keep practicing. Your main goal is to serve it much closer to the net, because the closer you are, the harder it is to receive. Alright, I'm pretty sure you are already feeling becoming a pro with these 2 fundamentals, but before we proceed, can we reach 500 likes? Now for our last part, the code. What is the code of being pro Hakka after all? The code of being pro Hakka is to know what is the best abilities and lineup for this. The best ability for Hakka is Port Touch, Curve Spike, Magnetic Pull. Port Touch allows you to confuse your enemy with your clones. Curve Spike makes your serving more deadlier, and while the Magnetic Pull allows you to score easily with the Magnetic Dunk. And for the best lineup for Hakka in 2v2 is Hakka and Hakka, 3v3, Hakka and Hakka and Hakka, and 4v4, Hakka and Hakka and Hakka. Number 13, Faiko. Alright, so this is the stats for the Faiko. As you can see here, he has the max stats for setting and jumping. So that means he is a setter type. He got a decent speed and mid stats for his spike, but here's the interesting part. His secret special allows you to dump your set, meaning you can become much unpredictable setter if you can use your ability properly. Alright, the first step to become pro as a Faiko is to go to the practice mode. So as you can see here, his setting has similarity to Timeskip Kageyama, where the ball goes straight than the usual arc pattern. But the only difference is that it doesn't stop mid-air. His setting physics has the similarity between the Timeskip Kageyama and the Taichou. He's like a middleman between these 2 setters. Alright, so here's a quick tip from me when aiming your set. First, your aim for your set determines on where your camera looks like. It doesn't matter if you have ship lock or not. You can easily rely to your cursor when you're aiming your set, especially if you do use ship lock. Now let's go for the exciting part of this, the dump set. Whoa, what is that set? That set is kinda badass. So you can trigger your dump by activating it on your R button. So you can choose between default and dump with this. So whenever you have the dump, the ball goes down really fast. However, there's a limitation to this dump. You can only do the dump set in the front row. If you try to do dump setting outside the line, you will end up getting too low. Getting too low is like getting a slow jump set. So when do you actually use your dumping? The only time you will use your dump is when you are close to net and your enemy is far from the net. Also, avoid aiming too much to the side because you're likely to get too low if you do that. Just like on his name Faiko, you fake your set by dumping it down to the net. So that's the only simple rules of doing a dump with Faiko. Even though it's so simple, but I want you to keep tracking your current art ability because otherwise you might get punished by losing your tempo and you might accidentally set with dump instead of default. So you have to be mindful and careful as Faiko. Now you know the basic fundamentals of Faiko. Can you hit the subscribe button if you find this helpful? Now let's talk about the deadly techs of Faiko. The first deadly tech of Faiko is the power scaling tech. The power scaling allows you to adjust your dumping. This way, you can easily punish your enemy when they are far from net. But here's the funny part. If you keep doing this, you can easily lure them close to the net. And when they're close to net, you can just spike it with S tilt instead. And the second deadly tech is the curb spike tech. The curb spike tech is one of the deadliest serving tech you can do for your Faiko. To do this, max it out, then S tilt before you activate your curb spike, then spike it. This way, you can surprise your enemy because they won't expect the ball will drop close to the net due to curb spike. Alright, now you are getting close to become pro with Faiko, but before that, can we hit 1000 likes? Come on please. So what are the best abilities you can use for Faiko? The best ability you can use right now as a Faiko is the Steel Block. Why? Steel Block only needs a few charge to maximize it, and you can keep using it especially in 2v2. It can counter shield break, and it's really hard to react with it. You just need a good reading blocking, and this will be a perfect ability for you. Second is the curve spike. Like I said earlier, combining your curve spike with your serve is really deadly since most of the serve only hits around mid or backcourt. So with curve spike, you can surprise your enemy by hitting it close to the net. I have done a lot of curve spike with different style like Faiko, and it works most of the time. Ultra style number 2, Akari. Alright, so this is the stats of Akari. As you can see here, this type of style is a back row spiker. Why? Because he got these max stats on his jump, speed, and spike. And what makes this style so unique is because of his dashing capability. What you're seeing here in the stats is not yet enough because the ultra abilities mastery is really insane. So in his mastery, he got a lot of buffs here, especially on the mastery tree and 5. Alright, first, the most effective way for you to master Akari is to go to the practice mode. So how do you actually use the dashing on Akari? You can use the dashing on Akari by pressing the R button. You can do sideways, front and back. This can be applied through the ground and air. And for your W tilt, you can aim it through your camera direction. But how far does the dashing Chrisu? The distance of dashing of Akari is the half width of the court. And the distance is adjustable through your advanced mode. But did you know that there are big differences between Mastery 1 and 3? All because of the charge jump. This charge jump actually makes your dashing become more powerful than ever. Oh my god! What the hell was that? So if you reach Master 3 with Akari, your spike becomes Timeskip Hinata. I recommend you changing your keybind into Alt or anything that makes you comfortable. And there's actually 3 things that you need to know for Akari. The first one is that you cannot spam the double dash when you are mastering 5. And for the Master 3, you cannot trigger the Timeskip Hinata spike when you do a flicking. And for the number 3 is to hit that like and subscribe. Alright, so what's the most important thing for the Akari? The most important thing on the Akari is to have a proper setter. The best spot for you to spike is to the antenna part because you can have a lot of angles to do here. Either you do the demon cut, corner spike, or dunk it. So now you know the key foundation for the Akari. It's time for you to know what are the 4 deadliest tech for Akari. The first one is the Steel Block Dash. Steel Block is one of the best ability you can use in Volleyball Legends because it's super easy to charge up. Since you have a decent speed and dashing capability, your defensive capability for blocking is much better than anyone else. By doing this tech, all you have to do is to jump, dash, then suddenly activate the steel block, then block it. You just have to be careful to not trigger the blocking first because if you trigger the blocking first, you won't be able to dash. So you have to practice a lot to get used with it. And the second deadliest tech for Akari is the fishnet dash. Fishnet or back blocking is one of the most annoying strat that most pro players do. Since you're really fast and you have this dashing, you have more capability to counter the spiker in front of you. The third one is the Demon Dash tech. All you have to do is to ask for the setter to set on the sidemost part, aim to the side, jump, and dash towards the ball, then spike it. This tech is basically just a combination between Demon Cat and dashing. And lastly is the Flick Dash tech. This one is not on air, but you actually dash on the ground then suddenly jump. This tech makes your spike become power spike without doing a lot of effort. To do this is to dash to the ground, jump immediately, then spike it. Now you know the 4 deadliest tech, let's talk about the best abilities for Akari. There are 2 best abilities for Akari, which is the Steel Block and Redirectional Jump. Ultra Style number 3, Ronin. On the first look, it might just seem a regular secret style that has a 2 max stats, jump and spike. It doesn't even have a max serve at all. But that's just a bait, because when you look at his ultra abilities, his spike actually becomes super spike by just holding your spike. And it becomes even more crazier when you look at his progression in his mastery. He got every bob in each mastery progression. Dive, base spike, serve, and spike bob. This last bob is the craziest one among this. I will be showing this to you later on in this video. Alright, so overall, he's a spiker style. Listen, the most effective way for you to learn Ronin style is to go to the practice mode. Alright, let's check out how does his spiking works. His base spike is actually really good, but when you combine it with the power spike by simply holding your click after you jump, damn! His charge spike is really crazy as Timeskip Hinata. But here's another thing, you can even make your charging spiking into ultra spike. When we take a look to the Mastery 5, it says here, you need to hit that sweet spot to trigger the ultra spike. But what is that sweet spot, Chrisu? To hit that sweet spot is to hit that subscribe burst. Alright, I want you to take a guess. Where is that sweet spot? You might have guessed that it might be around the left or right arm, but that's where you are wrong. You actually have to hit it between your head and body. Let me show you how to do it. Do you see it? That's right. That's where the sweet spot for your spiking. What actually happens if the receiver received that ultra spike? Basically, this is like a receiving a TSO serve but in a spike form. But I'm gonna be honest, it's not really abusable since the ball actually goes up really high in all matches. Now, let's do some comparison between the level 0, 3, and 5 for spiking. Alright, so here are the pros and cons of Ronin. He has the craziest spike, decent stats, and it is easy to use. But the only cons of Ronin is that he is pretty slow, it takes time to charge, and it is too expensive to maximize. Now you know the basic fundamentals of Ronin, let's make you win much better by learning what are the best secret techs for Ronin. There are actually 2 secret techs you need to know, and among these techs, there is one forbidden tech that makes this Ronin 100 times better. Alright, so the first deadly tech is the partial tech. You see here, when you do a S tilt with charged spike, it goes out of bounds most of the time. But if you do a partial like this, you can make it hit through the line. Alright, let me explain to you in a simple matter. First, you have to hold your S tilt, rotate your camera around 30 to 45 degrees on the side, then spike it. By doing this, you have a higher chance to score the ball rather than a regular spikes. Alright, now for the forbidden tech. Before that, can we hit at least 500 likes? Now, what are the best abilities for Ronin style? There are actually 3 best abilities. I will categorize this from hardest to get to easiest to get. The first best ability for you to use is the Lead Feet. Lead Feet is a versatile ability that allows you to do many things. You can bait your enemy, save yourself from gliding, or even from getting punished, which makes this one of the goated abilities. The second ability is the Redirectional Jump. This ability can be obtained anytime, unlike Lead Feet. It has similarity to Lead Feet where you can bait your enemy, but this one, you can apply this as well for your serving. Although, this one is a bit difficult to use than Lead Feet, but it's super worth it to master. Lastly, for the Steel Block is the easiest one to obtain among all of these 3. And it's actually the best legendary ability because of how easy it is to use and charge. Lastly, before the EVO style, number 14, Kijjo. Alright, first, You may have seen Sanju everywhere, especially on his tilting mechanics, but Kijjo has a better twist for you. This style has the craziest stats among all of the secret styles I have seen, because he has the perfect stats that every spiker needs. First, he got the max jump and spike, which is already a good combination, but he almost got a max serve, which makes him really broken already because he got the utility and the offense at the same time. What makes this really broken is because of his rainbow tilting. Sano is not the only secret style that has tilting, but Kijjo as well. And it's much crazier when you look to the secret abilities. His rainbow tilting can be charged as twice as much than the Sano itself. Later on this video, I will show you how insane this style is. Let me tell you right now, his zero blocking is not a curse, but rather a blessing. Alright, the secret way for you to learn and master this Kijjo is by going to the practice mode. Alright, let's check out how Kijjo really looks like. Alright, so Kijjo tilt can be adjusted by how long you hold your tilt, and it takes half of a second to charge it up. What I want you to know is the purpose of tilting. How powerful is tilting is? Well, tilting makes your aim even more unpredictable. The further you are in the net, the more unpredictable your tilting is. But how do you counter Kijjo? The answer for that is to hit the subscribe first. Alright, the real answer is to look carefully where he is tilting. If you look carefully on how Kijjo tilts, you can easily predict on where the ball lands. It takes time for Kijjo to charge his fully tilt, so you can assume it just goes further. Not unless if he is close to net. That's where you are forced to jump receive his spikes, or even back block. We can clearly see here that Kijjo is 10 times much better than Sano. He got all of the utilities that every spiker needs, rather than Sano, who is pretty slow and doesn't have a good serving. Like I said earlier, Kijjo zero blocking is not a curse, but a blessing. It is a blessing because of the back blocking meta right now. Overall, you should definitely get this style now. Now you know the basic foundation of Kijjo, let's talk about what are the two deadliest tag for Kijjo. Let's start off first with the easiest deadly tag to do, which is the serving tilt tag. Usually, most of the players just tilt down when doing a serve, but there is a problem on that. If you mix your W tilt with A or D, it caps you so hard from tilting much further, which is a problem, so I want you to do this instead. You do a serve without holding a W, but A or D only. With this way, you can easily bait your enemy when serving. And you have to be careful with your timing, because if you rush it, it will go out of bounds. So you have to wait a bit before you serve with a max tilt left or right. And when you combine this with the corner serving, it's so over, bro. If you feel like you're becoming a pro, why not hitting that subscribe button? And the second deadly tag is the partial tag. This tag is much more easier to do because of the tilt arrow indicator. You see, you might always hit out of bounds when you do S-tilt with the Kijjo, especially with the high ball set. But by doing a partial, you can bypass your enemy and hit the line shot with it. All you have to do is just to hold your S, then move your camera into 50 to 30 degree angle, then spike it. Now you know what are the two deadliest tag for Kijjo. Can we get 500 likes for all secret ultra style guide? Alright, now let's talk about what are the best abilities you should get for Kijjo. There are two best abilities for Kijjo that can make him even more powerful. Can you take a guess? Well, there's no other than the golden ability, which is the lead fit. This ability allows you to re-aim your spike or even prevent you from getting a wrong glide by getting instantly dragged down to the ground. You can do a lot of stuff on this ability, and the second best ability is the shield breaker. This is the perfect ability to counter those who back block a lot or even jump receiving whenever you are close to net. Huge W because you have learned every secret ultra style, but wait, listen carefully. You still lack something. What makes you win much better is to find a teammate that will match your chemistry. With a great chemistry and mastery, you will become unstoppable for sure. If you have learned a lot, why not hitting that like and subscribe button? And are you ready to learn the Encho, the first EVO tier? It's just right above my screen. Or maybe watch the best tips and tricks. As always, a fellow samurai says, to God be the glory.